If you look around central North Carolina today, the natural areas you see are mostly second-growth forests with shady canopies and very few plants in the understory. This landscape is shaped by change, both past and present. The Piedmont saw intensive settlement, farming, and urbanization in the 20th and 21st centuries, which has massively reshaped our natural communities. Forests were harvested for timber, watercourses redirected and dammed, and pretty much all of our arable land has been tilled. A natural community which has been particularly hard hit is the Piedmont prairie, a sunny grassland system with few trees and a rich understory of grasses and flowers. Unfortunately, a place where there aren't many trees to cut down is an awesome place to start building a town or planting crops. So today, this system has been almost entirely eradicated from the Piedmont. Patches of this now rare system persist, frequently on tiny scraps of land like roadsides and rights-of-way that haven't been developed. In many cases, the soils at these sites are unsuitable for agriculture. In these special places, prairie plants have managed to cling on, though some of these species have been endangered by the decline of their available habitat. But this brings us to the ongoing threat the Piedmont prairie faces, under a new and rapid kind of change. What will happen to these plants if the scraps of land they persist on become unsuitable in our changing climate? Broadly speaking, individual plants are sedentary. They don't migrate with the seasons or move to a better habitat when the going gets tough. Across generations, plants can move. Seed dispersal allows for plants to germinate and establish in places inches or miles from their parents. However, this multi-generation migration relies on something that prairie plants don't seem to have: time and land. The variable impacts of climate change could mean local conditions become drier, or at higher risk of wildfires or more prone to flooding, but almost certainly hotter. And if rare prairie plants are hemmed in on all sides by cities, highways, and farms, they don't really have anywhere to run. In order to ensure our native prairie community persists, we need to understand what environmental factors limit or promote its growth. This understanding of basic prairie biology will not just help us understand how climate change may influence its present habitat, but help us choose places to establish restorations as refuges for these plants. To understand what affects prairie plant germination and growth, I designed an experiment where I could grow plants under different combinations of light, water, and soil type. Remember when I said that lots of our prairie remnants occur on soil that can't be farmed? One major question we have is whether prairie plants are actually adapted to these soils, and whether we should try focusing on conserving areas where they occur. In the fall of 2021, we collected seeds from 6 plant species which are associated with the prairie community. The next spring, we harvested 40 cubic feet of soil from my field sites. We planted over 15,000 seeds in a factorial design, meaning that every combination of our environmental factors was applied to all 6 of our species. We surveyed the experimental site every week for seedling germination and seedling mortality. After 4 months of growth, it was time to say goodbye to our seedlings. First, we removed a single leaf, which we weighed and scanned. We'll use this data later to understand how the different environmental conditions change the seedlings' growth strategies, which can tell us about the stress they're experiencing. If some conditions promote strong, competitive plants, that's really important for us to know. Next, we removed the entire plants from their trays. We rinsed off the roots and carefully dried them, then separated the leaves. We bagged up all of these plant parts and took them back to NC State, where we dried them in ovens so we can measure how much actual plant tissue is in each plant, without all of the water weight. Using all of this data, we can paint a pretty good picture of how environmental factors shape the earliest stages of life for these prairie plants. And what we found was a lot of variation. But in general, it looks like the special prairie soil does help prairie plant seeds germinate while experiencing high sun and low water stressors, possibly because the soil itself can hold a ton of water. This prairie soil seems to defray the effects of seedlings getting blasted by full sun or having limited access to water. Another piece of evidence for this hypothesis is that water-stressed plants growing on prairie soil invested more resources into growing stems and leaves than plants growing on common soil, which grew more roots. This tells us that those plants needed to put more effort into obtaining water. However, we see this pattern continue in treatments where plants had sufficient water, which tells us that something else may be going on. Possibly, plants growing on prairie soils are taking up more nutrients. allowing them to grow more robust stems and leaves, while plants on common soils are hunting for nourishment below ground. So what does this all mean for conservation and restoration in a changing future? It seems like the best option for prairie restorations may be to find land where this special soil type already exists, since most of the plants in my experiment seem to germinate, survive, and grow best on it. Further work is needed to understand what exactly it is about these soils that promote prairie plants. Our ongoing work studying leaf investment strategies between the seedlings will hopefully give us a better idea about that question. The most important thing we learned was that these plants grew in all of the treatments. A hotter, wetter, drier, more variable future may not be the end for the Piedmont prairie community, especially if people are proactive about restoring and planting these imperiled species.